The summer of 1942. For Adolf Hitler, the war against the Soviet Union was not just a military campaign, but an ideological crusade for Lebensraum space and destruction of Bolshevism. The objective, the oil-rich Caucasus region, the lifeblood of the Soviet military. And on their way was Stalingrad, a crucial industrial hub, a key transport link, and most importantly, a city bearing the name of Hitler's nemesis, Joseph Stalin. For Hitler, it was a symbolic prize. For Stalin, its loss was simply unthinkable. The battle would become the bloodiest in human history. The German Sixth Army, led by the cautious General Friedrich Paulus, was given the task. Facing them, the Soviet 62nd Army, commanded by General Vasily Chuikov, a man who would not yield an inch. By August, the German advance had been swift, but on August 23, 1942, the battle truly began, not on the ground, but from the air. The Luftwaffe, in a stunning aerial blitz, unleashed a firestorm on Stalingrad. Instead, it created a defender's dream, a labyrinth of debris, perfect for ambush, concealment, and the gruesome reality of what was to come. Stalin's response was brutal and uncompromising. Order number 227, not a step back. Any commander who ordered a retreat without explicit permission faced a firing squad. This created a desperation on the Soviet side that hardened the resolve of every defender. By early September, the German Sixth Army, confident of victory, entered the ruins. But the war had changed. This was no longer blitzkrieg. This was now a desperate, claustrophobic struggle for survival in a city of the dead. This was the Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. Combat was not fought over miles, but over floors, rooms, and individual trenches. The superiority of German air power was negated by desperate proximity. Key defensive points became legendary. The grain elevator, fought over for a week, changed hands constantly. But the psychological weapon the Soviets wielded most effectively was the sniper. Operating in the smoke and ruins, they picked off German officers and key personnel, turning every corner into a potential execution. Under constant German shell fire, supplies and reinforcements were ferried across the Volga at night. This lifeline was fragile, but it sustained the 62nd Army. For the German Sixth Army, the initial euphoria had evaporated. Ammunition was low. Food rations dwindled. Their mighty panzers were useless in the rubble. They had conquered 90% of the city, but the final bloody 10%, the crucial banks of the Volga, remained in Soviet hands. The German advance had reached its culmination. Hitler's focus on Stalingrad had created a fatal weakness. The long, overextended flanks of the German salient, held not by elite German divisions, but by poorly equipped Romanian and Hungarian forces. Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov and his planners saw their opportunity. On November 19, 1942, Operation Uranus was unleashed. A million-man Soviet counteroffensive, spearheaded by armored divisions, struck the Axis flanks with overwhelming force. The Romanian lines instantly collapsed. 4 days later, near the town of Kalach, the northern and southern arms of the offensive met. The entire German Sixth Army, over 250,000 Axis troops, was sealed inside a vast, frozen pocket or kessel. General Paulus immediately requested permission from Hitler to attempt a breakout, a move that might have saved a portion of his army. Hitler's reply was a furious, direct order: stand fast. The Sixth Army was to hold its position and would be supplied by air. The Führer's psychological inflexibility trumped military reality. He had promised Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, could deliver 500 tons of supplies daily. They barely managed 10% of that. Soldiers, wounded and frozen, were forced to eat their horses, then even rats. German Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launched a desperate relief effort, Operation Winter Storm, trying to smash through the Soviet encirclement. It came within 30 miles of the pocket, agonizingly close, but was ultimately repelled by fresh Soviet resistance. With the failure of the relief force, the Soviet forces, now commanded by Marshal Konstantin Rokossovsky, began Operation Ring, the systematic destruction of the trapped Sixth Army. The airfields inside the pocket, which offered the last hope of escape or resupply, were overrun. The wounded could no longer be evacuated. The German soldiers were abandoned to the cold, starvation, and the relentless Soviet advance. On January 31st, 1943, from the basement of a department store, he finally surrendered the southern pocket. 2 days later, on February 2nd, 1943, the remaining German resistance ceased. The scale of defeat was staggering. Over 91,000 German soldiers were marched into Soviet captivity. Of the nearly 250,000 Axis troops trapped in the Kessel, only about 6,000 would ever see Germany again. Total Axis casualties, killed, wounded, and captured, approached 850,000.